All right, everybody, welcome to the Jacque Show. I am so excited to talk about this topic today. I have a feeling it's going to either make you continue listening to me or aggressively turn you off, and that's fine either way. It's all going to be based off research. It's all going to be based off of evidence. And what we're going to be talking about today is something in the body called secretory IgA. And this is something that is so heavily important to understand and know about now, and nobody seems to be talking about it. And we're going to talk about what affects secretory IgA, what it does, where we find it in the body, and why it's so dang important. All right, so like I said, I've got a ton of energy here today, so just going to pour through the microphone. And if you're watching me, you can see my enthusiasm through this. I'm so pumped to talk about this. So, secretory IgA. The big thing with secretory IgA, ladies and gentlemen, is that the big theory between what we have been taught, what we've been raised to believe, which is the germ theory, which means that if we come across a germ, then we are destined to become sick. But we all know people who, especially in this day and age, can get sneezed on, spit on, laughed on, coughed on, share drinks with, and they don't get sick. You know, like somebody that literally could be drinking COVID from a cup, drinks it, and they're just like, that was delicious. On to the next day. And people are like, what? How is that possible? Well, the whole theory behind germ theory is it's flawed. It's flawed, but it's beautifully set up for us to be enslaved by medicine. Because when we say that when we get exposed to something, we have no choice. Our body cannot possibly, and this makes me laugh, your body can't possibly push through it. It's impossible for our body to do it. Your natural immune system, what is that? It needs a vaccine. It needs a medication. Your body is broken. It needs this. It needs that. It needs this. It needs that. No, that's old school. That's dumb school. That's what they want you to think. They want you to be unempowered. They want you to be weak. They want you to be sheep, not lions. You know, that's all over Facebook and Instagram. Lions, not sheep. So this podcast is going to educate you on that. And it's going to educate you on something else that's even more important, but pushed away. It's called the terrain theory. Okay, write that down. Terrain, Terrain, terrain theory. You can look it up. There were two scientists that basically, from what it sounded like, they hated each other. One was like, no, if we get exposed to a germ, then we're destined to get the disease, or we're destined to get sick, or we're destined. Not necessarily true. Like, in a sense of like getting sick, expressing horrible symptoms and things. Now, if I'm exposed to a virus, like, my body's going to do its own natural response. It's going to take care of it. It's going to get rid of it. But then I'm going to have antibodies that are produced that are going to protect me for many years to come. Again, research is showing that. Research is reinstating that. But when we're talking about the difference between germ theory and terrain theory, it's really the theory of disempowerment versus the theory of empowerment. Because if we talk about the terrain theory, that means that, say your body is a perfect breeding ground for just disease, bacteria. You're stressed all the time. You eat McDonald's all the time. And don't joke about, oh, it has preservatives in it, so I'll be preserved for life. For the many times from friends joking around. But if you poison your body enough, if you're on enough medications, if you're taking immunosuppressants, you're building a perfect terrain to get sick, which means if you do get sick with a virus or a bacteria or parasite or some other sort of pathogen, the severity of symptoms and risk of death are massively heightened. And that's what we're seeing with COVID is a lot of people are dying with these comorbidities where the terrain was perfect to take and receive COVID or whatever it is and knock you out. And again, this isn't me being insensitive. This is just stuff that needs to be talked about because nobody's really talking about that. I mean, it's been 2 years or so. I've done like 3 Instagram lives on this, and still, it's really it's not as well received as it should be because it takes work, and we'll talk about that. But the whole thing revolves around secretory IgA. Okay, and let's use a gardening example, right? Now, obviously, we're in the winter time, so people are like, what the hell are you talking about gardening for? Well, you're going to be planning for the spring if you're going to be planting something. But let's talk about my money plants that I have over in my corner here, okay? One of the money plants is blossoming. It's doing absolutely fantastic. It's in the same exact environment, same room, same light. They're both in front of the same window. One of them is doing, actually, this is a perfect example. I would show you my plants, but the rest of my office isn't exactly up to par with cleanliness right now because I've got Palo Santo over here. I've got rocks and crystals. I've got a woo-woo room over here. But either way, this is perfect because we got two plants in here. One is absolutely thriving. I mean, we've got the whole twisty Q of the money plant. Looks beautiful. There's two giant like stalks, if you will. I'm thinking, Jack and Beanstalk. I've got kids, it shows. But two beautiful stalks coming up, twist braided up, and just like a giant umbrella worth of beautiful leaves. And then we have one next to it, and it looks like somebody came with hedge clippers and just took out all the leaves. And quite honestly, there's going to be a leaf, maybe. There are 4 stalks coming up from this one, and God, does it look bad. It looks horrible. It looks absolutely awful. So they're in the same environment. They're being exposed to the same bacteria, same microbes, same air, same everything, same amount of light, same amount of draft. They're both under the same air conditioning vent that blows the air out, same temperature, same everything. So then why is one of my plants thriving and the other one not thriving? No, really, why not? Please tell me I'm horrible at plants. No, it's the soil, right? It's the terrain. It's what are my plants growing in? Did I take better care of one than the other? More than likely, absolutely. Because we bought about 37 plants at the same time. I do not have a green thumb. I'm not going to say brown thumb. That would be bad. But whatever the opposite of a green thumb is, I've got that. And so I know that I've been doing work. There's great soil. I put great stuff in the soil, but it's finicky with how much water to add. So I could have overwatered one, underwatered the other, which would make one thrive versus the other. I put organic fertilizer sticks in there too to try to do it. I know that my dog comes in here and she's weird. She eats the soil. My baby will come in here, my 1-year-old, I can't call her baby anymore. My toddler will come in. She'll knock the soil around. So like, I don't know, but what's happening is the terrain is being altered because the other plant that's getting beat up by my daughter and my dog and potentially too much water is under fight or flight. It's under a stress response. Plants are smart like that. They can have their own stress response. And so in doing that, the soil can be robbed of nutrients and then the plant is not able to grow. So this is an awesome study that they did. I forget, man, I've listened to so many audios before. This was down when I was in Texas, and Dr. Zano gave me one of these audios, and it was, I forget who, I think it was Richard J. Santo was talking about it. And he's talking about these researchers that were finding this breed of deer that were just dropping dead, just randomly. No animals mauled them, nothing, just boom, dropping dead. Like, what the heck is going on? So they were trying to research around, is there some poison? Is there something going on? Is somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing? And then I think it was a rookie or something like that was on the investigative team, took a newspaper and smacked the tree. And when they smacked the tree, it produced a poison. So when the tree felt like it was being attacked, it produced poison. The coolest thing about that too, and this is where we're like, we'll get into this when I have like some other guests and things on here because they're better at me with this, but we're all energetically interconnected, whether you like it or not. So I'm pouring love and energy out to you. But what that showed was that when that tree was under attack, not only did that tree produce the poison, but miles out from that tree, the other trees also produced that same exact poison. So it was like that tree was warning the other trees that there was a threat that they had to be ready for, and they turned poison from the bark, which is what was killing the deer. I don't know where I was going with that, but plants under attack. Anyways, so when we're talking about terrain in our bodies, this is really where, with being a naturopathic health expert, functional medicine practitioner, and doing everything that I do, This is where we really fine tune and really accelerate our results. Is we're not here to just accept the fact that, listen, there's a virus that's floating around out here. We just have to sit idly by and wait for it to come through. And don't get me wrong. I think I had all of the strains or something, or a flu or whatever, but I kicked it out in a couple of days and I'm good to go. And my patients, same thing. They could be around a lot of people coughing, sneezing. They could be flying. They can be around the vaccinated who are potentially somehow shedding this effect onto the others. That's a whole different topic for another podcast, especially because they're jacking up some of my patients' hormones. But anyways, so when we're talking about the terrain theory, the more that we're poisoning our bodies with our lifestyle, our stress, our our lack of workout, or our overworking out or overtraining, lack of sleep, alcohol consumption, we're not getting vitamins in from our foods anymore because the soil is just completely depleted from nutrients anymore. So we're in this massive nutrient deficient state. We're in this stressed state, and what's going to happen is the terrain is going to be altered. And one of the things that you need to talk about is secretory IgA, or SIGA, S-I-G-A. And I want you all to write that down, secretory IgA or S-I-G-A. And you can fact check me if you want to, but this stuff is massively important. There's a book that usually have it on my bookshelf here, but it's not here. I think it's in my my travel bag. I always like to travel with it, and I think it's called the chronic stress, the chronic stress crisis, I believe is what it's called. And what it talks about is they experimented on some prisoners, and they gave a parasite, I think it was Giardia, to a bunch of prisoners, and they tested their secretory IgA before. Then they gave them parasites. I'm laughing now. I was like, ugh. But it's for science, right? Actual science. So they gave these people parasites, and then they saw how their bodies responded based off of exposure to the parasite. Those with lower secretory IgA had more severe symptoms, longer duration of symptoms, and had harsher die off of the parasite leaving the body. And then you had the other ones with a relatively normal or just normalized secretory IgA, and they had minimal symptoms, minimal downtime, and recovered beautifully. And they're like, what the heck? It's the same parasite, same thing, just like my two plants, same parasites. And so in theory, if we were talking about the germ theory, that means everyone should respond the same exact way. We come across this, and these are the symptoms we get. This is how long it's there for, and that should be that. Even with COVID, if COVID responded the same way in every single person, or the flu, we'd say, okay, the duration is going to be 3 days. Every single person is going to have 3 days of hell. And then you're going to have 2 days of just shooting out snot, and then maybe a day of fatigue. And there's so we're talking 5 or 6 days, you'll be down. That's it. Everyone that gets it, that's exactly what's going to happen. That would be if germ theory was legit. But that's not what's happening. We're having some people who are exposed 47 times and they're fine. We're having people who hear about COVID and they're down and thinking that they have COVID, or they could have the flu, because apparently the flu is coming back this year because it took a year off. It's much deserved vacation that flu really needed there. That's a whole different whatever. So who knows what's actually happening out there? But the thing that remains constant is that it's not the same. Some people are saying, oh, well, it's COVID, you're going to lose your sense of smell. You're going to lose your sense of taste. That's how you know that you have COVID. Well, if you plug my nose and I don't have my olfactory sense working, I'm not going to smell and I'm not going to taste for the duration that I have that sinus congestion. It's just what it is. And that's not true. Some people get it, some people don't. So again, the pathogenicity of COVID or whatever any disease process is never the same for any two people. Okay, even husband, wife, or husband, wife, and kids, duration can be completely different. Why? If germ theory was true, we would all suffer at the same exact time upon the same exact exposure. We'd say 2 days after exposure, you're going to be down for the count. I'm just making stuff up. 2 days after exposure, everyone is down for the count. After that, you're going to have this, that, the other thing, and it'll be done, like I said, in 5 or 6 days, whatever it is. We're having people who are down for a month. We're having people that go to the hospital. We're having people that get fevers, people that don't get fevers, people that get sinus pressure, people that get nausea, people that get stomach aches, nothing is the same. So again, and I'm like, this is stuff that I haven't even talked about. I haven't even talked to my wife Megan about this yet. Like, this just makes so much more sense. Like, really, and I hope this makes sense for you guys through the microphone here, is that we're not to fall victim to what's out there. And really, there's something strong with the placebo effect too. So if we're told that something's going to happen, we typically perceive it to happen as well. That's a whole epigenetic thing that we'll talk about on a later podcast. Even with cancer, if you're told that you're going to die in 3 months and you fully believe it, hook, line, and sinker, your body will actually rewire itself to die in 3 months. So yeah, anyways. So side note, wow. So when talking about disease process and what they did with this book, they really expose the fact that, okay, germ theory, yes, we're all being exposed to certain pathogens. We're exposed to viruses and all kinds of crap that we don't even know, doesn't have a name on it, or it's just floating around there somewhere, and I don't know, it's there, right? And so we're constantly technically under attack, and our natural immune system is taking care of all of those things, right? We be exposed, we develop antibodies, we attack it, we kill it, we keep the antibodies. And what's interesting is when they try to roll out medications or vaccines, what are they trying to do? Realistically, what are they trying to do? They're trying to mimic the body's natural immune response and make a shitload of money off of it. It's what they're trying to do. Where do you think they got the ideas from all this stuff? Let's inject a little bit of it so that way you get exposed and you have some antibodies that are produced so that way you have... It's synthetic. It's fake. Get exposed to the real thing. And I'm not trying to sound insensitive, but like realistically, like chickenpox parties were a huge thing back in the day. I'm fairly confident that I was probably at like 100 of them when I was a kid. I had chickenpox. It sucked. Whatever. Oatmeal baths were delightful. And to this day, like I have a certain emotional connection to potentially taking another oatmeal bath because it was just so soothing back in the day when you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to itch through my skin, right? And then they have what? The chickenpox vaccine. You already had chickenpox, all right? That virus hides dormant in your spine. And then what happens is you can have shingles later on in life due to lowered immune system, right? Because that virus comes out, boom, it expresses itself, and there it is. And then even viruses, again, talking about this, think about herpes, right? Oral herpes, genital herpes, wherever, not to get gross on the podcast, but this is a realistic topic. It's a realistic thing. When people are stressed, what happens? They have a breakout in those areas. Same thing with shingles. You'll have a dermatomal breakout of shingles on your body, which is also kind of cool because I'm nerdy. I'm a chiropractor, so I know exactly where your shingles is hiding right now. Your herpes zoster, I know exactly where your virus is based off the dermatome. I know what ganglia it's hanging out in the spine. And it's cool. Anyways, so weakened immune system allows for expression of dormant viruses. It allows for exception of new incoming viruses, as well as an increased rate of progression of the disease. So when we're talking about Secretory IgA, really just do a simple Google search on this stuff. It's really easy to find, okay? Secretory IgA, immunoglobulin A, is an antibody that's produced in your body pretty much everywhere. Anywhere that there is a mucosal lining, this stuff is going to be produced, okay? So where? So it's going to be, oh my gosh. So it's typically going to be found in the gut. It's going to be found in the lungs, in the nasal passages, in the respiratory tract, so the trachea, as well as the lungs, the alveoli. You can find it in the blood. You can find this sucker everywhere. And it's like your first line defense against any type of invader that can come in from the outside. If we do not have sufficient amounts of secretory IgA, we are, by definition, immunocompromised. Our immune system has been compromised. Why? Not just like that's it, period, boom, that's it. You're immunocompromised, deal with it. Why? Why is your body currently immunocompromised? So let's talk about this from a COVID standpoint. 2 years of, they came up with a new term, COVID divorce, because people can't stand the sight of their spouse for long periods of time. COVID divorce, losing jobs, working from home, self-teaching kids. And think about what this is doing to the kids too. We'll go into that as well. But all of this increase in stress, Okay, everyone knows, and I can say this almost truthfully, I feel like everybody knows at this point that stress weakens the immune system. Everyone knows that, right? Even when we talk about, oh, it's flu season, well, what else weakens the immune system? Candy, lack of vitamin D, staying indoors, inactivity. It's a whole different whatever. Either way, when our bodies are stressed, what's going to happen is it's going to suppress our secretory IgA. So it's basically saying, like, it's not to laugh about COVID again. It's like we just laid off our entire staff. We're like, hey, we don't have the funds to be able to pay you antibodies anymore. So just, we'll call you when we need you. And even then we probably won't, because we're going to be stingy with what we're going to be doing with our money. So yeah. So it's like we laid off all of our antibodies. We laid off all of our immune system, because all we've been doing for the last 2 years, I don't even know how long this has been going on anymore. It's how ridiculous this has been. But we've been in a constant state of fear and a constant state of stress. Now, whether you believe in certain conspiracy theories or not, there is documented research that I think it was deemed illegal to do this, but I think it was like 30 days of consistent brainwashing of fear is like it's like a war tactic or something that they were doing. And again, don't quote me on it. You could look it up, fact check it. But from what I heard, it's basically true. So they quarantined us. We weren't allowed to go to work. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. We couldn't go to the gyms. We were just stuck indoors for a long duration of time. And all they did on every single media source, whether it was social media, the news, Fox News, CNN, wherever you're getting your news sources from, is fear, 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 death, death rate, death number, death number, death number. And then all of a sudden, this made me laugh. I knew it wasn't as bad when they switched from the total numbers of death to the total numbers of cases. Like, they didn't do what they thought it was going to do. Okay. Either way, conspiracy theory aside, truth aside, really, that's what it is. Truth aside, they're like, oh, let's switch from death to case count because it seems scarier. They scared the shit out of us. We were afraid to go outside. We put masks on, which is disgusting because nobody washes those damn things. They don't. And so you're breathing back all of that stuff. You'll get pneumonia. You'll get all kinds of bacterial infections, oral infections. It's gross. And you can hate me for saying this if you want to, but realistically speaking, you're robbing yourself of oxygen. When I put one on, I almost had a panic attack in Target because I put one on once, ripped the thing down, and it was like, hon, I'm gonna pass out because I can't do this. Like, first off, I'm claustrophobic. I almost died when I was a kid in one of those pull-out cots. Thank you, Mandy and Shauna, and thank you, my dad, for saving me. But my sisters trapped me in one of those pull-out cots, shoved me into the couch, and left me in there. Couldn't get me back out. We were playing a game called Kennywood, which was a terrible idea, and I hope that my kids never know what that is. Kennywood is an amusement park back in Pittsburgh. It's a fun amusement park, but don't do it in your own home and lock people or shut people in the cot. It's just not a good look. Anyway, so I'm claustrophobic, and so that stressed me out. I'm like, no, I can't do this. I can't. Even right now, I'm getting like stressed out. My heart rate's raising because of that. So when we're stressed out for a prolonged period of time, what that's going to do is continuously lower that secretory IgA. And at first, it may not seem like it's the end of the world, right? At first, it might just be like, we'll just lower the secretory IgA. Don't really have any symptoms or anything right now. Maybe I have a little bit more of like my environmental allergies, or maybe I'll have seasonal allergies, which is a sign of a hypersensitive immune system. Maybe some of those, but realistically not too bad. And then you hear about COVID, or you hear about your neighbor coughed, and you're like, what did I hear? Did I hear a cough? Oh, I think I feel that too. Your immune system's weak. Your perception stresses you out again. You assume that you're going to get whatever it is that's out there because everyone tells you that you're going to get it, especially if you haven't got vaccinated, which is a whole different can of bullshit. Pardon my French, but anyways, so they tell you that you're going to get this, and so you automatically assume that. And so if you go out to the grocery store and you hear somebody cough, you're like, oh, that was it. I shouldn't have come outside. I'm screwed. This is the germ theory. I'm just going to get it now, and I'm going to suffer through it. And, I guess that's all I can do. Here we go. Yay. Right? So you're already stressing yourself out. Your perception of it's already heightened because you're fearful of what's going to actually happen, right? You're fearful. You're in a fearful state. So it's going to suppress that secretory IgA. Now, COVID is respiratory, right? So when you breathe it in, your immune system, again, your secretory IgA lines your throat, your oral cavity, your throat, sinuses, lungs, all the way out to the alveoli, not ravioli, alveoli. And so if we're stressed, then when we breathe in that virus, our immune system's weak. So our first line defense is basically just like, hey guys, just lower down the gates, open up the drawbridge, let this guy in. This was bound to happen. Let's just get this over with. We did the fire drill. Let's do it. Come on. Let's get exposed. Let's feel like crap for a couple days and let's go for it, right? Your immune system's already weakened, which means your first line defense is going to be down, which means symptoms are going to be more harsh for you. And then also, if we have less antibodies on the surface, we're going to have less antibodies in the blood itself. So we're going to have less of a chance to beat this thing and get it taken care of, right? And so again, medicine's theory is, well, let's inject this into the bloodstream and see if we have any effect on it because we're just going to go to the bloodstream. Well, guess what, guys? Again, COVID still has to come through. It doesn't go through the pores into the blood. It has to come through the nose, the mouth, the throat, all the way down into the lungs. So great, you have it out in the antibodies. In theory, you have the antibodies, in theory, out in the bloodstream. But what happens with your first exposure to it? You're still getting hit with it. You still have to freaking deal with it. So if your immune system is weak at the start, then the symptoms are going to be more severe. So then what do? First off, again, lower stress. Lower the stress. Do some stress relieving techniques. Do some meditation. Do some prayer work. If exercising brings you joy and calms you down, do some exercise. Do some journaling. Do some gratitude. Turn off the TV. Get off the social media. Stop comparing yourself and keeping up with the Joneses. Just stop that side of things as well. The other thing to do is make sure, like for me, if someone is like, hey, I want to check my secretory IgA, what do I do? Well, I'm going to test your stool, right? Because the strongest concentration, in my opinion, is going to be in the digestive tract. So it's going to let me know if we have a high or low concentration of secretory IgA. That's going to let us know. That's going to tell us. You could also do an adrenal panel to see if your adrenals are burning out your secretory IgA, which is almost 100% true. Again, especially now, this day and age, all we're doing is being stressed out, overworked, undersleeping, and overeating. All of that stress is going to continue to lower our immune system, right? So your stool test will show you, the mark will be on page 4 of the GI map. If you ever run the GI map, you can go back on and take a look at it. But if your immune system is down low, you want it to be about like 1,500 or so. If it's down low, especially if you have infections, you're going to want to get that up. There's some simple things that you can do to raise those levels up. There's a product called, we sell it, it's called, it's Fluoromyces, but it's basically Saccharomyces boulardii cerevisiae. It helps to increase your secretory IgA. It's an immune booster, which is great. But it does come with side effects of constipation. So if you're constipated and you're taking Fluoromyces, it's not the best thing for you. Get that stool test run and figure out why you're constipated to begin with. But anyway, so that's something that can raise that level up as well. Also, certain bacterial cultures in your gut also help to raise up your secretory IgA. So getting on a good probiotic, making sure you're taking the good things, getting some good fiber in, good prebiotics, postbiotics, probiotics, all the otics that you can get, that can help to raise your immune system. So even with people being exposed to COVID, people have symptoms that will be like long haul syndrome, where your digestive tract will also be impacted from exposure. And we found there's some research saying that there's Faecalibacterium prausnitzii, I believe, is the bacteria that goes low. Again, don't quote me on it. One of the bacteria drops low after COVID exposure, and that has a profound impact on how your gut functions. So if your probiotics are imbalanced from exposure to COVID, right? Probiotics low, immune system low, we have a higher risk of having other opportunistic organisms in our body to express themselves. Strep throat. Seeing a record high rate of strep throat coming out this year. Okay, my kid even had strep throat. I'm like, what the hell is this? So strep throat can come. Staph infections can come quite often as well. Helicobacter pylori or H. pylori infections can then resurface due to the stress response. Chronic stress suppresses stomach acid, allows for H. pylori growth to just grow abundantly. And then all of your digestion is taken out from there because it starts in the stomach and the oral cavity, and it just throws everything off. So that stool test can let you know what your secretory IgA is looking like. It'll also let you know how long has it been. In my opinion, I can kind of gauge on how long it's been low, all right? Because it's like when you're initially, just like we talked about with the adrenals, when you're initially exposed to a pathogen, your secretory IgA should shoot up. It should be seen as a threat. Like, oh gosh, let's get after this. Let's bring everybody out. Let's bring out the troops. We've trained for this. Let's crush it, right? But then if you're constantly being exposed to it and your immune system's weak, then all of a sudden your secretory IgA starts coming down. And then you're like, we have less people to fight this battle. It's going on forever. and then Secretory IgA keeps going down lower and lower and lower. And then you had one infection to start, and now you have a parasite. Now you have this bacteria. Now you have this candida or this fungus or whatever it is. And like, oh, shoot, I can't win. So we have to help your body. We have to give your body nutrients that it needs or the support it needs to get rid of those other invaders. So that way we can bring up the immune system again to allow it to be able to fight off whatever the next threat may be. So I've seen through this where, again, we can have the triad of things. We can have a parasite, we can have bacterial overgrowth or bacterial infections, and candida or yeast infection. I call it the triad or the trifecta. You did it. You got all three. Not to say that that's a good thing. It means your immune system was weak enough. Your secretory IgA was weak enough. Your gut mucosa was weak enough to allow for those things to be inhabited. So going back to my plant example, there is a bacteria that I see that is one that's very, very, very underestimated, underevaluated, I guess would be the key thing to say. And it's called Akkermansia muciniphila. Akkermansia muciniphila. Again, GI map, page 2. That bacteria, if that goes low, all right, muciniphila, it's the creation of the mucosal lining. If that drops and that bacteria goes down, it's a probiotic basically. If that goes down, then you're building my plant soil environment. You're building the crap environment, the desert environment without any mucosal lining, which is where the secretory IgA likes to be. The less we have the mucosal lining, the less secretory IgA we have, right? So we have to make sure that we take care of our gut, take care of the stress, rebuild the soil to get your body to go back on track. So again, this goes into the whole germ theory versus terrain theory. That gut, I mean, I pay so much attention to gut health. It's one of the reasons why that's like one of my top 3 things I go after. Even when people are like, hey, I want to balance my hormones. Cool, we're testing your gut. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, your hormone, if your hormones are off, could be because of your gut. More often than not, it is because of your gut. Okay, and we can do the relations between that from the infection, spiking the cortisol, doing a pregnenolone steal, damaging the hormones. Certain different bacteria in the gut can also cause recycling of estrogen, causing a third type of estrogen dominance with the beta-glucuronidase. There's all kinds of nerdy stuff that we can get into, and I promise you that we will if you want it. But the gut is massively, massively, massively important, especially when we're talking about that terrain theory. Okay, so what do we do then? All right. Short of getting tested, what are some easy things, some easy hacks, if you will, to be able to raise your secretory IgA? All right. We talked about what affects it, right? So we have stress, so reduce it. If you have toxic influences, if you've got forceful parents trying to shove the vaccine down your throats, or you just have friends that just suck, they're terrible friends, cut them out. They don't deserve to be in your life. They may have been in your life for a reason in a season. Get rid of them and move on. And if they get mad about it, well, it's on them. If they're not willing to grow with you, just leave them behind, or just have a long distance relationship where it's like, hey, I'll check in once a year, see how you're doing, say Merry Christmas, and that's it. Step 1. Step 2, eliminate the other types of threats, if you will, in your life. So your daily routine, okay? You wake up in the morning, start with some gratitude. Wake up. Even if it's a stressful day, even if your son wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning like my son did today, wake up with gratitude as best you can. Don't wake up with anger or frustration, and get about your day, okay? Then when you eat, make sure when you're eating food, eating breakfast, try to avoid any inflammatory foods, namely dairy. Dairy will crush your immune system. It'll crush your secretory IgA and cause massive inflammation. So if you're worried about being sick and you're eating dairy, well, kind of doing it to yourself. So avoid that creamer. Go for a milk alternative. Go for oat milk if you want to. It's great. It tastes delicious in coffees or lattes. Or if you do black coffee, just do like a bulletproof type coffee so there's no mold, no pesticides in it. But at the very least, do an organic-based coffee so you're not getting pesticide in your cup of coffee in the morning because, again, inflammation is going to weaken the immune system. Then if you're going to be jumping in the car afterwards, make sure you give your spouse a kiss, give your kids a kiss, jump in the car, put something positive on while you're driving, okay? Not a movie, but put a positive, put this podcast on while you're driving, unless this fires you up, but put a podcast on, put on a church, a sermon or something. Like I like to listen to Elevation Church because Stephen Furtick is awesome. Listen to that, or listen to an audiobook, or listen to some positive music. Something where your body's going to be thanking you for watching or listening to it while you're driving. So do something like that. So that way you're pouring positivity back into your life, and that positivity and that decrease in stress is going to over time accumulate and start to passively and actively raise your secretory IgA back up, because you're eliminating the threats that are going to cause secretory IgA to be lower down. Another thing that's massively important while you're at work, if you have toxic people at work, don't talk to them. Right? Do your job, but if you don't need to actually physically talk to them, or if you do the water cooler talk and you're like, hey, did you get your booster shot? Did you get your booster shot? Did you do this? And you don't believe in that? Are you a conspiracy theorist? Are you a tin hat person? Eliminate that. Go to work. If you need social interaction, have good friends you can reach out to afterwards, or talk to your spouse about it when you get home. All right? That is part 2. When coming home, do the same thing, positive everything, leave work at work. You don't want to come home and dump all of the negative toxicity down your spouse's throat. I know it's just the thing that everybody does. You won't believe my day. Oh, my day was this, that, and the other thing. And then the spouse is like, oh, you think that was bad? I got this, that, and the other thing, this. And then you're both sitting there just like, well, my day was bad. And then I just consumed the bad from your day, and you consumed the bad from my day. And now we both absorbed the day, and now we're both stressed out. And now we're going to eat horrible food. We're going to watch terrible television. We're going to stay up all night long. And then we're going to go to sleep, right? Leave the crap at work. If you want to be like, man, my day was crazy, but I'm grateful to be home with my family right now. Cool. Leave it at work. All right. When it comes to food, same thing. Eat healthy. Avoid the processed sugars. Avoid the baked goods. If you have cookies left over from Christmas, freaking throw them in a trash can. Get rid of them. Donuts, get rid of them. Don't eat them at work. Avoid those inflammatory foods if you're trying to boost your immune system. All things that should have been talked about for the past 2 and some years for COVID prevention is avoiding all of these stresses, avoiding all these processed foods, avoiding all these sugars. Halloween, in my opinion, if you wanted to cancel a holiday, cancel Halloween. It's going to be it's got to be the worst holiday in the world. It's fun for kids, but for our kids, we took Hoyt trick-or-treating. We took Sage trick-or-treating. She was cute. She was Wonder Woman. But Hoyt went as, oh my gosh, he went as Spider-Man this year. I went as Captain America, and my wife went as Black Widow, and yeah, Sage was Wonder Woman. And we walked around, we had a good time, we had friends, like our neighborhood is fantastic here, like everything was great. But then when we came home, the candy that Hoyt got, we poured it into the candy bowl out front, and we traded in for a giant Lego that cost, money, and he destroyed it. It took me 3 hours to build it for him, not with him, because he didn't choose to do it. And he destroyed it. He smashed it later on in the day with a temper tantrum. Like, fantastic. But at the very least, I didn't poison my kid's immune system going after Halloween, which sets them up for failure. Because if you eat, I think it's 75 grams of sugar or something like that, if you're eating that sugar, it suppresses your immune system for about 5 hours after consumption. And from Halloween on, all people are doing is eating candy, eating leftover candy, eating baked goods. People are bringing baked goods in. Then you have Thanksgiving, and you're eating all your pies, and you're getting ready for Christmas, and you're trying your Christmas cookies, and you're trying your pies then. And you sit down and eat 5,000 calories at a meal, and you're stressed out. And no wonder people get sick through the holidays. I mean, come on. And then your family comes in. And family, I love my family. I love them. I love them to death. My mom, my dad, my sisters, and all that. I love them. I love my brother-in-laws, everybody. Great. But prolonged periods of time with anyone's family is going to be stressful, or just prepping for them to come and producing it and having all those foods, and you're emotionally spending your energy all day, every day to entertain. It's exhausting. It's hard. It's really hard to do that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's hard. So these are all things. So your daily routine, again, ending on a positive note, leaving the stress at work, coming home with gratitude to be there with the family. Don't take what your boss said or what your coworker said to heart and bring it out and, lash out on your family. Leave it at work. Be in that gratitude, eat a healthy meal, and have a healthy dinner time, bedtime routine. Cut down the television up to like 2 hours. Definitely don't eat up to 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. It'll cause another stress response, and your body won't be able to recover from the stress of the day. If we're constantly stimulating ourselves with blue light from phones and all that crap all day, every day, that blue light stimulates cortisol in our body, and it produces that. So we get very stressed out, even though we're like, well, we don't think about it. My phone's on like a warm mode, so there's like no blue light. My computer's on no blue light. Like everything is blue light free basically in this house because of that, because I don't want to have that hit my freaking brain to overstimulate cortisol, because I'll be stressed out. And I already have enough energy. I don't need more cortisol to produce more stress to destroy my adrenals. I need my energy where it's at. I have a lot to do. So cutting that down before bedtime is going to be big. Read a book, right? I'm into, well, I'll probably talk about it a lot more, but I'm into like Norse mythology right now. I love learning about Thor, Odin, Freya, however you pronounce it, the other names, Mjolnir, like the hammer, all of that stuff is really cool to me. So there's like some Norse mythology. There's some Greek mythology I'm learning about there too. My wife's reading some awesome books. She read me a book last night because I'll be honest with you, I was too lazy to read last night. She was reading me a book that she was reading. So doing those types of things, it's a good thing. And don't stress yourself out with what you read too. Again, don't just scroll through your phone, turn your blue light off and read about the news and 500 people that died randomly because of, I don't know, a gust of wind. Like, don't put that stuff into your head before bed. Bring gratitude, bring some awesome stuff into bed. And then that usually will transpire into your dreams. Whatever you read about, you're going to dream about, which is pretty cool. So like, I'll dream about, this sounds really weird now that I'm saying it, but I'll dream about like Thor, Odin, like all these Norse like gods and goddesses and stuff. And it's really cool. Have better sleep. You wake up the next morning feeling rested. You're good to go. And then you continue your day. So you'll slowly start chipping away at the stress in your life, which will also start accumulating a stronger immune response for you. So that way, if you are exposed to viruses, bacteria, etc., you will be empowered to know that you don't have to just succumb, just like, all right, just got nothing to do, and I'm just going to have to deal with this, and I have to take this, or I have to take that. You shouldn't have to wait until you lose your health to take care of your health. All right? You shouldn't have to wait. And by shouldn't have to, you shouldn't wait until you lose your health to take care of it. Again, I'm going to quote Dr. Zeno again, my one buddy. He was like, listen, 2020, we got caught with our pants down. Like all these people who never took care of their health, all they did was work, all they did was eat and to get stressed out and quote unquote enjoy their lives. They got caught with their pants down. And they're like, oh shoot, I've been neglecting my health for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And then this one thing is supposed to come and knock me out. Well, don't wait until that happens. Take care of your immune system. Take care of your body. Eat nutritiously. Eat to fuel your body. Don't eat to just make your taste buds happy. Eat to optimize your performance. All right? It can be as simple as that. And then also have the mindset. Okay? Just like I talked about, where in your mindset, if you believe that you have, if you believe you got cancer and you got 3 months to live, your body will rewire itself to die in 3 months. If you're like, yeah, my body's got this. This might suck right now, but I am healthy. I am healing. I am mucus free. Don't say mucus free because you need that healthy mucosal lining. But say I'm snot free. I'm booger free. I am this. I am that. Claiming those affirmations, even right before bed, when your conscious mind is slowly starting to dwindle down and your subconscious is more impressionable. Say that stuff before you sleep. But if you believe that every single day you're going to wake up feeling like shit, well, every day you're going to wake up feeling like shit because your body doesn't know any better. You're telling it, this is what is, this is how it's going to be. Your subconscious mind just listens to what your conscious mind tells it. So again, perception is key. If you feel that you're going to be sick and you're going to be knocked out for months and months and months because Joe Schmo from 5 houses down has dealt with this for like the past 6 months, well then you're going to be stuck in that as well because your body believes it to be true. So rewire how your brain thinks, plant positivity, plant health, plant well-being into your subconscious mind, and you'll get through this, okay? You'll get through it. It's very, very, very powerful, and it doesn't hurt. It's free to do. All of this stuff that I'm telling you right now, besides if you want to get a stool test, it's all free stuff that you're able to do, and that's what I want to be able to do on this podcast is, yeah, we can do deep dives into what's truly happening in your health, but why not do some stuff along the way? Because the more stuff that you do along the way, if you come to me later on down the line or you work with another practitioner that does what I do or I train another one that you work with, then you're already primed. You're already ready to go, which means it's going to be so much easier to work with you and so much easier to get results, which is great. So if you're listening to this and again, the New Year's here, draw that line in the sand and say, you know what, 2020, 2021, those years sucked. This year, I'm going to learn what health truly is so that next time another variant or the next time another health crisis supposedly takes over the world, you don't fear it. You're fine. You don't hide yourself indoors. You go out. You enjoy yourself. Okay? And it's not to say that you're never going to deal with a symptom at all in your life. It's not to say that. Okay? Because I believe that some of these things, gain of function research to figure out how this can be more easily spread and how people who are relatively healthy or exceptionally healthy can still get it, myself, I believe there's some stuff to that. But my body kicked it out in a couple days. One day sucked. Well, I was like, man, I'm tired. I'm good to go. Boom, good to go. I didn't use any of the ivermectin, no hydroxychloroquine, none of those things. I allowed my body to be able to heal it, which is what our bodies were designed to do. Our innate intelligence is smarter than any doctor that's out there. And any doctor that wants to disagree with that, you're an idiot. I'm just going to say it. You are. And you need to really check yourself, because I would use the whole quote, the only difference between God and a medical doctor is that God doesn't think he's a medical doctor. All right? What scientists are trying to do is hack our body synthetically to create something synthetically to improve upon what our body is capable of doing. Do they understand a lot of what our body does? Sure. But they don't understand everything. And I don't think we'll ever understand everything. But we have to accept that. We have to love our bodies for what it's designed to do. It's designed to keep us alive. So even if we express some symptoms along the way, just be like, oh, thank you. Thank you to whoever it was for exposing me to this. It's going to happen at some point. And I'm grateful that my body has the opportunity to beat this. Boom. And then it does. 100%. Okay? So, Secretory IgA, where is it found? It's found everywhere. From your gut to your nasal passages to your lungs to the bloodstream, it's everywhere. What affects it? Stress, poor diet, antibiotics can have an impact on this as well. Poor sleep, again. Those types of things are all easy things that can lower secretory IgA. So then reverse those, and you will then increase your secretory IgA because there will be less threats to you. So hopefully this will help to kind of differentiate the difference between germ theory and terrain theory. So again, next time any variant or any other threat supposedly comes out there, you're already doing the steps. You already have this stuff taken care of, so that way you have less fertile ground for a bad thing to grow. And that allows you to be empowered to walk with confidence, knowing that, hey, if somebody sneezes on me, yeah, I could get sick, sure. But I know my body is going to beat whatever it is that person has. Okay? So I'm going to sign off with that today. Hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. And look forward to meeting with you again. Have a great one.